Picture a small-town doctor's office in the late 1990s. A sharp-suited pharmaceutical rep places a glossy brochure on the desk, pointing to a single, reassuring statistic. He calls it a miracle. A new painkiller, with an addiction risk of less than 1%. That promise echoes as pills spill from bottles, and the fabric of the community begins to fray under the weight of a silent, growing dependency. Years later, the scene is a sterile courtroom. A gavel strikes down, the sound cracking through the silence. The company behind the pill agrees to a multi-billion-dollar settlement. The question hangs in the air: was it a tragic miscalculation or a calculated business plan? The pharmaceutical industry has given us antibiotics and vaccines, medicines that have doubled human life expectancy in the last century. It has also, since just the 1990s, paid over $62 billion in penalties for fraud, bribery, and illegal practices.
And that is the paradox of Big Pharma. Is this an industry of heroes hampered by a few bad actors and isolated mistakes?
Or is that $62 billion just the cost of doing business for a system that profits from sickness and conspires against cures?
Let's start with the term itself. Big Pharma isn't one company. It's a nickname for the collection of the world's largest, most profitable pharmaceutical corporations.
Sounds like a wrestling villain. This Sunday, it's Johnny Justice versus Big Pharma.
But the name matters. It frames them as a single coordinated force, which is central to the entire conspiracy narrative. It's easier to fight one giant than a dozen different companies.
And the core theory is that this monolithic force is deliberately suppressing natural cures, hiding dangerous side effects, and preventing the discovery of a universal remedy for major diseases.
Because a planet full of healthy people is just a terrible business model. You can't sell medicine to people who aren't sick. It's evil, but I see the logic.
The most prevalent branches of that theory focus on two main claims. First, that vaccines are knowingly used to cause conditions like autism. And second, that a universal cure for cancer has existed for decades.
The claim is that a single cancer cure is being hidden to protect the multi-billion-dollar chemotherapy and cancer drug market.
Hold on. The industry's official defense has always been about the colossal cost of innovation. They argue it can take over a decade and billions of dollars to bring one new drug to market.
Exactly, and those profits, they claim, are what fund the next generation of life-saving breakthroughs. It's a cycle of investment and return.
So their argument is, sorry, we have to charge you $1 million. But we promise the next thing will be even cooler.
And there are undeniable triumphs to back that up. To be fair, the Nobel Prize has been awarded for pharmaceutical breakthroughs that form the basis of our modern understanding of the immune system.
We do live longer, healthier lives on average than any generation in history, and a significant part of that is due to the industry's successes in developing new medicines. Okay, so if you're going down the rabbit hole, the first branch almost always starts with the opioid crisis. That's the kernel of truth for a lot of people.
You're talking about Purdue Pharma in the 1990s. They marketed OxyContin as a safe, non-addictive painkiller. How did they justify that?
They based the claim on what were later revealed to be misinterpretations and deeply flawed citations that profoundly understated the real danger of addiction.
So it wasn't just a mistake. It was a marketing plan based on a lie. That's not a kernel of truth. That's the whole rotten corn cob.
The next major charge is profiting from public research. A 2024 analysis highlighted how companies regularly acquire patents based on taxpayer-funded research from places like the National Institutes of Health.
Wait, so my tax dollars pay for the research, and then they patent it and sell it back to me. That's like paying a contractor to build your house, and then having to pay him rent to live in it.
It's a real and contentious issue. The industry argues they bear the massive cost of turning raw research into a stable, safe, and effective drug. But the optics are terrible.
And then there is the paper trail. This isn't theory, it's public record. A database called Violation Tracker, which aggregates corporate misconduct, shows pharmaceutical companies have paid billions in fines for offenses they were found liable for.
To be clear, we're talking about resolved cases. Billions of dollars in penalties for things like illegal marketing, kickbacks, and bribery.
So when they get caught, they just write a check and call it a business expense. That feels less like a penalty and more like a licensing fee for being evil.
One of the largest settlements involved Pfizer. In 2009, they paid $2.3 billion to resolve criminal and civil liability for illegally marketing certain drugs, specifically promoting them for uses not approved by the FDA.
That's a key point. Off-label promotion. They can't market a drug for a condition it hasn't been rigorously tested and approved for. In this case, they did, and they got caught.
2.3 billion. I can't even imagine that much money. For them, is that a never do this again? Fine? Or a try not to get caught next time fine?
And it wasn't an isolated incident. In 2020, the Swiss company Novartis and its subsidiaries agreed to pay over $345 million to resolve cases of bribery.
According to the Justice Department, they were violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. The case involved providing doctors with lavish gifts and all expenses, paid trips to medical conferences.
What kind of lavish gifts are we talking about? A slightly better pen? Or are we talking here's a trip to a private island, now please prescribe our heartburn medication?
It's not just lavish gifts. The accusation of straight-up price gouging also has factual grounding. Take Questcor Pharmaceuticals. In 2001, a single vial of their drug, Actar Gel, cost $40.
$40. Okay, where's this going?
By 2013, after acquiring the rights, Questcor had raised the price of that same single vial to over $28,000.
Hold on, $40 to $28,000. That's not a price hike. That's a hostage situation. My first car cost less than that.
And this is how the rabbit hole gets deeper. For believers, these individual, documented cases, illegal marketing, bribery, price gouging, are not isolated incidents of greed.
They're data points. Believers connect them and argue it proves a coordinated, industry-wide conspiracy. It's not a few bad apples, it's a rotten orchard.
Right. One cockroach means there is a problem with the building. A dozen cockroaches means you burn the building down.
Precisely. The theory then expands its scope dramatically. The logic is if they provably lied about marketing, they'd lie about anything.
And that's when the circle of distrust widens to include the entire medical establishment. Government regulators at the FDA, university researchers, even your family doctor, they're all seen as either complicit, corrupt, or willfully ignorant in the grand cover-up.
That's a lot of people to keep a secret. You'd need a spreadsheet the size of Texas. It's amazing anything ever gets done.
Okay, let's pull back and separate the confirmed facts from the speculation. Verdict 1. It is an established confirmed fact that major pharmaceutical companies have paid billions of dollars in fines for illegal marketing, bribery, and price fixing.
This isn't a theory. The scale of the financial penalties is a matter of public record from the Department of Justice and other regulatory bodies around the world. The numbers are real.
Verdict 2. It is also confirmed that misleading marketing from drug companies played a significant role in fueling the opioid epidemic.
The less than 1% addiction claim for OxyContin, which we talked about, is a well-documented and foundational part of that history. It was a catastrophic falsehood.
That's the part that's not funny. That's not a whoops. That's real people, real families, wrecked by a marketing slogan.
Verdict 3. It is a confirmed and ongoing practice for pharmaceutical companies to build upon publicly funded research to create patented, profitable drugs.
The debate isn't whether it happens. The debate is about the balance. Is the company's investment in turning that raw science into a usable drug worth the exclusive, high-priced patent they get at the end?
It feels like they're coming in at the last minute to put the whipped cream on a pie someone else baked, and then claiming they own the whole pie.
Verdict 4. The claim that a single universal cure for cancer is being suppressed is speculation.
The scientific consensus is that cancer is not one thing. It's hundreds of different diseases on a molecular level. The idea of a single cure is biologically implausible. It's like hoping one key will open every door in New York City.
So it's not that they're hiding a magic bullet. It's that there is no such thing as a magic bullet, just a whole lot of very specific, very difficult buckshot.
And finally, the most damaging claim. Verdict 5. The claim that vaccines cause autism is false, unequivocally.
The original 1998 study that sparked that fear has been retracted. Its author, Andrew Wakefield, lost his medical license for serious, deliberate professional misconduct. It was fraud.
That part is so important. He didn't make a mistake. He lied. And people got hurt because of it.
Which brings us to the final and most important verdict. The kernel of truth here is undeniable. A long and consistent history of documented corporate greed, illegal activity, and unethical behavior provides the fertile ground for distrust to grow into full-blown conspiracy.
When you have proven cases of bribery and fraud, it makes the unproven theories about suppressed cures feel that much more plausible. The industry has, in many ways, created its own monster. So why do these theories persist, even when specific claims like the autism link are so thoroughly debunked?
Because psychologically, they provide a simple, identifiable villain for complex and frightening health problems. It's easier to blame a malevolent cabal for a disease than it is to confront the terrifying randomness of biology.
You want a bad guy, you want someone to be responsible. It's scarier to think that sometimes things just break, and there is no one to punch.
The sheer scale of the profits involved creates a powerful motive. When a single drug can generate billions, it makes people more willing to believe that a company would do anything to protect that revenue stream.
It's the supervillain rule. If the bad guy wants to steal a car, he's just a thief. If he wants to steal $1 billion, you assume he has a secret lair and a plan to block out the sun.
And that perceived motive is what conspiracy narratives feed on. It makes every corporate action, no matter how benign, look suspicious through the lens of profit.
This leads to what some researchers call a demonization snowball. A valid criticism, about drug pricing for instance, gains momentum and starts rolling downhill.
As it rolls, it picks up more and more unsupported claims. A concern about side effects becomes a belief they're intentional. A critique of marketing becomes a conviction they're suppressing cures. By the bottom, it's a monster.
So you start by saying, hey, this Tylenol is kind of expensive. And by the end, you're screaming that they're hiding a cure for werewolves.
And that massive snowball of distrust carves out a perfect space for a multi-billion-dollar alternative medicine industry to set up shop.
They position natural remedies as the pure, trustworthy alternative to the corrupt pharmaceutical system, often without the same burden of rigorous scientific evidence.
It's brilliant branding. Our miracle cure is made from hand-picked mountain flowers, not cooked up in some lab by a guy named Gary. Never mind if the flower is just a weed and Gary has a Nobel Prize.
Ultimately, the Big Pharma conspiracy theory is a self-perpetuating loop. The industry's real, documented sins make the fictional ones seem plausible.
And that resulting distrust makes it harder to separate the necessary, fact-based criticism from the paranoid speculation.
It's a snake that got so rich eating its own tail, it bought a solid gold tail to eat instead.
Next week, we're looking at a different kind of corporate scandal. How did Volkswagen, a company built on trust, fool regulators and customers for years with a defeat device in millions of their diesel cars? Don't miss it.
If you enjoy watching us sift through the real crimes to find the imaginary ones, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. We do this every week because apparently, the world is just that weird.